I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. There's another paid request, this time from Chad. Sorry, I wanted to get his name right. For those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, this is for a film called White Tiger from 1996. And I realized I had heard about this film because Scott Adkins, who has a YouTube channel, he does this video podcast interview series called, Inside Action. I forget the actual name of it. He interviews action stars. He interviewed Jeff Speakman. He interviewed quite a few people, including Gary Daniels. And during the interview, this movie came up where Scott Adkins like, hey, I saw this film. It's actually pretty good. And they showed like a little bit of it. And then when I got it, I'm like, oh, okay, I recognize the title now. And this is a pretty decent action film. If you're going into it, it's not the most original story. It's not. Gary Daniels plays a DEA agent. His partner is murdered. The guy who murdered him is Cary Tagawa, Shane's son from the 95 Mortal Kombat movie. He was a bad guy a lot. He was in Showdown Little Tokyo. He was in The Perfect Weapon. He was in Rising Sun with Wesley Snipes and Sean Connery. He's been in a lot of stuff. So Gary Daniels wants revenge and goes after Cary Tagawa. You got some pretty good fight sequences. You got some pretty decent gun battles. He meets up with Julia Nixon from Rambo First Blood Part 2. She's in the film. And you think they're going to be a love interest, but it's not really that. But he does not only go to save her, but fuck up Cary Tagawa on the ship. I don't know why I can't speak. Stuttering, fucking up all my words. Now, apparently the original story, because in the credits it said Bay Logan. I'm like, is that the same Bay Logan that did all those commentaries for those Dragon Dynasty, like Hong Kong DVDs? I'm like, wow, it's the same Bay Logan? Interesting. I don't know who directed it. But I would say this is one of Gary Daniels' better movies. My favorite is still Riot. I think that's a very fun film with him and Sugar Ray Leonard, and this big riot happens, and Gary Daniels kicking people's ass all over the place. I think that was with PM Entertainment. I love Riot. He also did Rage, Recoil. I think he did a film with Isaac Florentine called... was it Cold Frontier? I forget what it's called. Steel Frontier? God, I forgot what it was called, damn it. I do remember it being pretty decent. Like, Gary Daniels, he has some pretty decent movies. As I keep using the word decent. Maybe I would say decent another dozen times. This is a decent movie. And like I said, if you look into the story-wise, there's not a whole lot of story-wise that will surprise you. Because when you see Gary Daniels with his partner, you're like, yep, that partner's dead. Oh, he's got a family too? He's definitely dead. And the partner I recognize is a guy named Matt Craven. If you've seen the 1990 Jacob's Ladder, he's a guy that created the drug, the ladder. He's telling Tim Robbins about the drug in Vietnam, and he created it and what the ladder does. And he explains that near the end of the film. So that's Matt Craven. He's been in other stuff too. But pretty much they're on vacation with Matt Craven's family. They're called back to work. Cary Tagawa has his new drug. Once, doing drug deals. Him and his gang. They go to this warehouse. There's a meeting. There's a gun battle. And when you look at this film, what are you looking for? That's the question. And the question is, I want a hero I like because he's a badass, he's a competent actor, and he's good at what he does. And Gary Daniels is that. He's a competent actor for when he needs to be. It's not Al Pacino. It's not James Woods. But he's pretty decent. And he's really good at martial arts. And the director knows how to film them. Unlike some movies, like I saw the Van Damme film The Last Mercenary, which I think by the time this is up, there probably be a review for it. That director did not know how to shoot fight scenes that well. I'm like, this is a direct-to-video VOD. This is before even VOD. This is a direct-to-video film. That honestly, with the cinematography, could have been theatrical. Would not have been, compared to other movies at that time. Didn't look like a cheap movie. It's a film that has a scope bigger than you think it would. Like there's a bit where after his partner dies, the family takes the coffin home, and then shows this nice big wide shot of Gary Daniels this big and these big doors like closing in. Or at the end, this big cruise-like ship, and Gary Daniels jumps off, and the fucking thing explodes. For real. And you see a real guy jumping out in wide shot while all the stuff on top is exploding. I'm like, wow, okay, there's some budget and scope to it. The fight scenes are nicely choreographed and done. Like I said, the warehouse meeting goes bad. There's gunplay. Partner killed. Before that, it's a little bit of Gary Daniels fighting. Again, he's very quick, very efficient in his fighting. He's great with his kicks. Right? This is a guy that knows how to fight for the screen, and very effective in that. And this utilizes that well. And Cary Tagawa is a fun villain because he's a guy who he'll pick up a phone and as a wise ass goes, "Captain Kurt speaking," or he'll do things like he blows up this van and is one of those cool walking in slow-mo, walking away from explosions. And just Cary Tagawa looks just badass as the villain here. And then in the third act, when he gets Julia Nixon, it's like he's trying to do a bit of Blue Velvet. Like he's got the, I don't know if it's nitrous oxide, like he's got the, and he's put it to her, it's put it to him. It's like, Cary Tagawa, I like him as an actor. I think he plays a villain very well. Again, Showdown Little Tokyo, the 1995 Mortal Kombat, many others. And I thought he was definitely a good positive to the movie. You got cop blood. You guys, you're just fucking wimps. It's nice to see Cary Tagawa play that kind of villain. Because usually the villain is very... Like Showdown Little Tokyo, he's not making a lot of jokes in that. Or I wouldn't call him jokes, but here he's a bit more free to have fun with it. Which was nice to see. And the movie doesn't go too long before we get another fight scene. It's only like an hour and 30 some minutes. So like after his partner dies and he's looking for it, he goes to a club, finds Julia Nixon, has to fight these four guys in an alleyway. and, goes on from there. Pretty much him just trying to find Cary Tagawa, going from A to B to C. There's a point where he drops in on a gambling portion, hits a door into a guy's nose, like, pff, pff, oh. It depends if that's your kind of movie. If that's your kind of film, this movie's up your alley. Just like it was up my alley. Like, this is the kind of films I grew up with. I want to see a badass guy kicking ass, taking names, a plot that's simple enough for me to understand and follow, good villain, badass hero. You have your action scenes. It has a bit of a budget behind it. Even the look of the film, like the way certain certain hallways is like a little bit of smoke mist, so it gives a bit of a texture. Like there's a bit with him and this turncoat agent, and they're like, and Gary Daniels is a guy who's willing to get his ass kicked. He's not Steven Seagal where you cannot kick me, you cannot touch me. No, Gary Daniels is willing to take a beating. So it makes you root a little bit more for the hero. Because he's not granted, there are times I love the badass hero that just There are times I love that too. Not every single time, but there are times like John Wick, Rambo, Commando. Yeah, I love that stuff. Hard Target. And then there are times you do want to see a little bit of that. Like Van Damme did that a lot. Even in Hard Target, letting Lance Henriksen get some shots on him. Or when he's looking at the burnt remains and they wrap that thing around his neck and they beating up on his legs. Again, that's why I preach about Van Damme. He's willing to get himself beaten up because he knows that the payback will be that much sweeter. And lo and behold, squibs. Little explosives to make it appear like you got shot. You actually have squibs in this. Again, this is not... Like, this film is a film I've never heard of before that Scott Adkins thing. I guarantee you most of you have never heard of. It has a budget that seems decent enough with real, like, squibs, explosions. Not wall-to-wall explosions, but they count when they need to be. Decent fight sequences. Fairly well paced. So it's not too long before you have to wait for the next action scene. And like I said, the story... Again, typical story. You kill my partner, I want revenge. Again, not a whole lot to talk about story-wise, so that could be a detriment to some viewers. But pretty much is just this kind of movie I would want to get at the video store on VHS and have a good time with a cold one. Sit back and enjoy, and you get to see someone like Gary Daniels kick ass. There's one guy he has a decent fight scene with, and he gives an arm bar and breaks the guy's neck. Gets on a boat where Cary Tagawa got Julian Nixon, kicking ass, taking names, some gunplay. I don't want to give everything specific away for those who want to see it. The ending... Spoiler alert with the ending... I do think Gary Daniels got his ass kicked a little bit too much against Cary Tagawa. He still got some good stuff in, don't get me wrong. But I thought Cary Tagawa beat on him a bit too much. I would like at least one moment where he's like, Gary Daniels just beating the shit out of him, and then the explosion happens, and then they both... Because what happens is they're fighting on top of the boat while things are exploding, and then they're holding on to each other, and then the explosive blast pushes them both away on the ground. I wish before that, like Gary Daniels really make the villain particularly suffer. But then, like, that happens where they get blasted back after Cary was beating the shit out of them. They walk up, they walk away. Well, he walks away, Gary Daniels. Cary Tagawa's on the ground. Derry Daniels jumps off the boat. And I would like to have seen, like, at least him shoot Cary Tagawa, or break his neck, or anything, or impale him, and he's stuck there. Kind of what happened in Showdown Little Tokyo. Or something a bit more to it. And then after that, it seemed like maybe they were going with a love story between him and Julia Nixon. Because she does get saved, but then there's no final words between the two. Like, hey, good luck. Or, hey, you know, okay, we're not going to be together. Because they do have, like, an out of the blue... It felt like an out of the blue sex scene. At least to me, it felt out of the blue. At least to me. But it's like she's working with the bad guy, but then it's like she's working with the bad guy, but you tell she's doing it because her kid, and then she's hesitant on it. So I don't know, like, one final scene between Derry Daniels and Julie Nixon would have been nice, because she finds her kid, she's with her kid, and then Derry Daniels is hanging out with his partner's family on vacation again. So again, just a little bit extra oomph, like beating the shit out of Tagawa, and like you break his neck or rip his throat out, or fucking, you know, shoot him or something, and then jump off the boat. And then maybe like one final scene between Derry Daniels, Julie Nixon, or shaking hands, anything like that. Just, I mean, little bits in here and there. Again, the story could use a bit more originality, a bit more either quirky or cleverness. But overall, it's a fun action film. If you like Derry Daniels, if you like those kind of PM entertainment type of movies, if you like Cary Tagawa and he's having fun with the role, again, it's shot well enough for a direct-to-video film. Looks pretty decent. Again, I could buy, if this is put in theaters, I could buy it. There's some pretty decent shots. It goes by at a decent pace. And it's a pretty damn fucking decent movie. So, and again, Derry Daniels, I thought he was one of those action stars that handled himself fairly well. And then you later get the role in The Expendables, where he's fighting Jet Li and Jason Statham. And was it? He was City Hunter, I believe, with Jackie Chan. Yeah. He's one of those action stars. I'm like, hey, he's pretty he's a good one. He's a good one. Underrated one. Underrated guy. So, and I do think this is one of his better movies. So if you like martial arts, if you like these kind of action films, you miss them like I do, because they don't make films like that today. They don't. Or if they do, they're either poorly edited, or the guys are too old and broken down so they can't do anymore, or it's too CGI, or it's too schizophrenic editing, or they do something else, or they overcomplicate it, or they try to be too clever. So it's like, okay, I want cake, and you're giving me beef jerky. Okay, I don't mind beef jerky, but I want the cake. It's like, you know, just wait a minute, what are you doing here? You know, fun enough movie. So with that said, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.